Good morning. It's Sunday morning. It is the 1st of March, 2026. And, I could add comedy, I could add drama, I can cry, but it's not going to change the facts. And I've realized that the only thing left to do is to win the whole fucking thing. And the only way to really do that is to express the truth. But not just bits and pieces like I have before, but really tell my true story. Exactly how I got here, what on earth is going on, why telling the story is a big part of the solution. And rather than looking at this as some sort of a twisted, highbrow revenge plot, please recognize that this is nothing more than one human being and their ability to express exactly what it is that they've not only accomplished, but what they've learned and what they want to do to help. This is it. Everything beyond that scope really is either misunderstood or indirectly weaponized against my children and myself. My name is Daniel Enriquez. I am a human being. I'm a 43-year-old man. I do not suffer any mental illnesses. I am not violent. I have never been accused of harassment, violence, or anything of that nature until I made one of the biggest mistakes of my life, and that is I went to the Essex County family courts and filed a restraining order against my wife because I couldn't handle the beatings and the up and down insanity of the relationship. After that, everything that transpired is so vastly illegal that I had to take a pause in my life and really scratch my head and say, wow, where do we draw the line between the First Amendment and restraining orders that are truly illegal gag orders disguised as restraining orders? Where do we draw the line between unlawful alienation and kidnapping and Savannah Guthrie's mom, which is the extreme version of kidnapping? The words are very similar, but who is to say? And the truth of the matter is that these arguments are some of the most interesting hot button topics in the entire country. And the reason why I say this is because very few human beings can actually call themselves at the center of some of the most important, actual controversial items that are truly debilitating to most people to comprehend how I'm able to very calmly express myself. And the facts are very simple. I am going through some of the most insane set of circumstances. I have a laptop here which has a bunch of spreadsheets in it, and I will express to you that if I'm able to actually have any inkling of law enforcement, even for a second, look at what's going on, I will retain a $40 to $60 million real estate portfolio, which is mine, and be able to amicably, hopefully, divorce my wife. That's all my goals are, and everything I say here is protected under something called the First Amendment of the United States of America. Now, this First Amendment is misunderstood and often overlooked in a society of attorneys and politicians who will tell you that your ability to express yourself in a nonviolent and coherent manner is actually suppressed for your own good. Now, please, ladies and gentlemen, that is a massive pile of horse shit. There are no human beings who want to suppress other human beings' voices unless the person whose voice is being suppressed is speaking the truth. And that truth is not only irrefutable, but it will change the very fabric of the lies the bullies that are conducting themselves in the shadows are basing their narratives on. So please understand that I have no interest in silencing anyone. Please take a look at how open and honest my communications are, whereas the people that are going against me are doing what they're doing in the shadows. And any attempt that I bring forth to bring the bullies out of the shadows and into the light is currently being suppressed via unlawful court orders that I'd be remiss if I didn't say that it really hurts my feelings that the people that are at the heart of hurting my children really don't comprehend that my ability to understand two factors over the last 3 years have really been the proponent behind the accelerant known as the coming out of Daniel M. Rieses and ending what is known as my legal education and my tax law education. And I'm very proud that I was able to really study most of my tax law information over the last 15 years in private, and that's one of the things that I pride myself in. I believe that human beings who are afraid or misunderstand how important tax code deductions are and tax laws don't really understand that one of the reasons why I haven't been able to file for a few years is not because I'm trying to hide something, but rather I am a victim of fraud on such a level that the second that anyone from the IRS steps in, they will immediately be forced to take immediate law enforcement action. That would then create a domino effect, which will end with me receiving a significant stipend on a refund and a return from the US government, as well as a significant paycheck for the negligence that the government has caused for a human being who has done nothing more than spent 2.5 decades, maybe 3 decades, lawfully paying taxes, filing accurately, fighting with his mother to make sure that she doesn't use her shady ass Russian friends to file tax returns for her business. And really, I have never ever tried to circumvent any responsibilities that I've ever had for taxes. And taxes are extremely important, but it's also really important to understand that the way that human beings utilize their income and subsequently take a look at how they structure their debt to income ratios, as well as the allocation of tax deductible items versus non-deductible items. Like, for example, you can't just make up a story and then deduct it. So, for example, you might see me working a lot on YouTube inside of Jamie's home. She is able to deduct a portion of her taxable revenue because a portion of her personal life is being utilized in a work capacity, and so forth. So there are realistic aspects of it, and I know it to such a level that I'm able to really understand that it is not that it was in my best interest to be the victim of fraud. But when you're dealing with unsurmountable odds, the amount of resources that you put forth, both mental, physical, emotional, financial, if they're not put forth at the right time, it is not only futile, it is detrimental to the long-term project. And my goal throughout this whole thing has always been, from the beginning of this entire process, I've always said that my goal is to be a rich old white man. And that is not an arrogant comment. It is just a statement as to the society that we live in, that humans that are of a certain color and are motivated not by wealth of greed or greed of wealth, but rather the freedom that an independent source of income offers humans like myself who are really put down and deliberately hurt for nothing more than other people's either entertainment or some weird morphed form of love or attention, or I haven't gotten to the bottom of that yet. And I'm going to give myself a couple of days to really try to figure out what on earth is going on before I really open my mouth about the atrocities known as my family life that really have been a direct result of the negligence of humans that are truly at the heart of being instructed to moderate activities conducted by one parent or another, or one adversary versus another. But those human beings, such as judges and court-appointed human beings, when they choose to not do their job versus doing their job and misutilizing court law, they must understand that the ramifications are detrimental not just to one individual party, but all parties that are currently watching the set of circumstances, as well as the previous cases that human being adjudicated. So the court's integrity is at the heart of the issue. So rather than looking at Savannah Guthrie, who unfortunately not only lost her mother, it really made the local law enforcement and anyone that has to do with the recovery effort truly embarrassed to both see the poor response as well as taking a reflection and understanding how weak of a society we live in when a grown human being could just be taken out of in the middle of the day without anybody actually getting true leads as and reality of the fact that The human being who took her asked for $6 million. Why was $6 million not sent if your mother is that important to you? I'm a little confused about this entire set of circumstances, because we're talking about a human being who's a national figure who represents a multi-billion-dollar brand. And the Today Show is simply unwatchable given the circumstances of the fact that it's supposed to be a sentiment to the stability of the American entertainment industry, as well as the safety net that a daily program that offers light entertainment with a background of, hey, this is the right thing to do type of mantra. Well, how right is it for the network not to immediately wire $6 million to whatever psychopath to get Savannah's mom back, or at least get a paper trail? I mean, the Bitcoin system, as much as people want to believe that it is absolutely untraceable, I mean, look, I'm not trying to ruin anyone's mush or breakfast this morning, but I assure you, it is not unbreakable. It is fully breakable, and the entire concept of the blockchain, if it's undescribable to the average American by a human being like me, who's able to really break down very complex mathematical concepts, then it is simply not ready to be disseminated throughout the masses as nothing more than, oh, cool, Bitcoin, or the thousands of other currencies that are both unregulated and not supported by the US dollar, which is what call me crazy. I use something called the US dollar as a standard to truly understand the value of goods. Now, the reason why I'm so adamant about the Savannah Guthrie matter is because what Savannah Guthrie suffered, and what I saw her trying to express via a very, very, I don't know, my opinion is very simple. If you wear makeup your entire life in front of the world, I don't know if not wearing makeup is the best thing to do. It kind of projects a very weak persona, and I really feel bad for someone. I'm not trying to criticize a human being who just lost their mother, but I am criticizing a human being who is suffering through trauma and how they're able to express themselves, because I have chosen to take the high road and not continue to air the emotional aspects of everything that's going on. And that's not to say that Savannah Guthrie is any better than Dan Rieses, but please, I have 2 little boys that I haven't seen in 8 months. Savannah Guthrie hasn't seen her mom in maybe like a month and a half, and the world's crying for her. But no one gives a rat's ass about my 2 children losing a father, and vice versa, all in an effort to suppress my voice. Now, looking at this entire process, I find it really, 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 I won't say comical, because the comedy aspect of it is completely whitewashed by the lack of plausibility behind the facts. I found myself being arrested on 6 separate occasions in one set of circumstance, and 4 of those ended up with 31 days total, split up into 4 different arrests in the local county jail. Now, not only am I innocent of all the accusations that are put forth against me, but I've never been accused of any of these things in the 26 years that I've been in a relationship with the person that's currently at the heart of these accusations. That is actually very, very strange, hypnotic, and truly a mental poison to the ability for a human being to be a father, a friend, or a functioning member in our society. Because it really makes you think, like, wait a second, was I in the relationship with the same person that's saying these things? And if the goal is to drive a human being crazy, please understand that I am a human being who's already looking at the world in a very different way. So it's metaphysically impossible to make me go crazy. All it does is just really opens up everyone else's eyes that my accusations are not paranoia, and my perception on Jamie's husband, my ex-wife, and the human beings that are in support of these activities was really right all along. And that's really what the scariest part of this entire process is that over the last 3 years, I have very calmly taken the time to, oh, by the way, I don't rehearse, I don't have notes, nor do I do anything except speak from the heart. Please recognize the difficulties of this process. And there are 2 videos that I took down to not only show restraint, but to really express the fact that Jamie is a human being who I no longer can work with. And I will be producing the content 100% myself. Everything I say is 100% in my control. And I'm the only human being that should be responsible for any of the content that I publish. I have no interest in ever communicating with anyone directly or indirectly that I'm not allowed to communicate with. And I think that human beings who take my words out of context and then choose to hurt me only prove my point further and further and further by exacerbating a topic known as stalking. Now, in retrospect, over the last 3 years, I have learned a lot. But this story really begins at the beginning, where my goal is to take a certain number of breaks and film a series of segments with intertwined segments, and then a completely separate series of something called the Book of Daniel, a true story. Now, one thing I want to explain to everyone is that I not only have not lied about anything. One of the reasons why perhaps you might find me a little bit confusing is that you're all looking for my motivation. And I keep trying to express to you that my motivation is exactly what it was from the second that I started filming this content, or from the second I was able to speak English. And that is, hey, I have a really extraordinary gift, or several gifts, and I can do a lot of good for the people in my life. Please either help me or get out of my way. Either way, you cannot stop me from doing good, because I know that at the heart of what I am doing is truly a true calling of mine. A human being who's able to both entertain and analyze and express the opinion of the silent majority, who is so silent that they don't even recognize that what I'm doing by myself on camera is speaking for the majority of human beings who are simply not able to accept the reality of the world that they have created and contributed to, and believe that they are so scared of me seeing them and not being able to make eye contact with me, where I say, listen, I forgive everyone here. I understand. I know what it's like to be afraid. Obviously, I would never tolerate anything like this. And one of the things I want to express to everyone is that one of my closest friends when I was a child, his name's David Schenfeld, he's my cousin. Last time I heard, he's going through something very similar that I'm going through. And I will be going to my father's grave later this afternoon. And I believe that anyone that wants to meet me there, that's in my family, you're more than welcome to see me at any time. And I would love to be able to assist David or in any way. And I would love to talk to him about my problems. It's not always just about me and my ego. I only have fond memories. Over the last 30 years, our relationship has really become strained. A lot of that has to do with third parties and perceptions. And one of the reasons why I really care for David is because he is a keeper of some of the funniest memories from when I was a kid. And one of the things I'm going to explain to everyone is that my stories are not an accident. I have always set out to create something that is far beyond the reach of the average human. And I'll explain. At a very young age, I was exposed to some things that perhaps you should not show to children, such as applied mathematics, as well as some very interesting things that I believe that if I tell that part of the story, it would take away from the entertainment and the lightheartedness about the fact that I will save the serious content for later, but please just enjoy this story. Now, one of the things that I love more than anything is American movies. American movies from the 80s, 90s, and 2000 plus. And my brother and I, we are bonded in trauma. We came to America as children, going from a country where we spoke a certain language, then we spoke a different language, then a different language, and eventually we spoke English. And we also had really difficult parents. And the circumstances led to us going from being extremely wealthy in a country where our father was a really key figure in social circumstances to going to America where my father was considered a joke and meant absolutely nothing to anyone except to me. To me, he was an extremely important human being and I loved him very much. But I wasn't able to express that, so the majority of my childhood was mired in my anger towards the rest of the world mistreating my father. Now, that being said, I am now an adult, and the past is in the past. And one of the things that I recognize is that my brother and I were able to really bond over our love of movies. And I believe Mark and I went to Borders, and he picked up Leonard Maltin's 5,000 Top Movies or something like that. And it was this encyclopedia it was the original IMDb, and Mark and I really dove into it, and we were able to watch a shitload of television as well as really cross-referencing it to the movies. And that's where I was able to unlock my true ability to communicate via movies, because I started to really quote movies and speak to my brother in quotes, and we started to really bond over that. Now, what my brother also is a full key witness to is that, we had a really good time. It wasn't until my brother dumped me for cooler, older nerds while I continued my passion for movies and I continued to watch them. And we lived together, and I invested in a 1,000+ DVD collection, and I watched almost every single one of those movies, maybe 98%. And my love of movies has really defined who I am. But those movies, when I looked at all 5,000 of them, I realized that no matter how talented or creative I was, if I were to make another movie, I would be nothing more than a line item. Even the greatest movie of all time is balanced as a line item in a book. But if I were to create something, a book that is a movie, that is also in real life, so it can go forward or backwards, then I will be forever immortal, in the sense that I will be the first human being to be able to take the movie outside of the two-dimensional viewpoint that you're looking at this monitor with and make it in real life. And I believe that I have not only successfully achieved that, I can also very calmly explain to you that there are a series of movies that are being made at all times, and the reason why I express that is because rather than taking some sort of a silent, insane, and I say insane in the real context of inconsistencies, and inconsistencies is where the lack of mathematical knowledge comes in to the majority of people who want to suppress my voice or go against what I say. Please recognize the fact that I haven't seen anything remotely close to my abilities to speak directly or indirectly to the audience that I don't have a restraining order with. And please remember, I was the first one to file anything because I had enough. And I do recognize it's a mistake. I do recognize that I should have just filed civil litigation and moved on with my life, because I thought that what I was doing was kind of the best for my children. I did not ask for any jail time at the time. I simply asked for a mental health evaluation and anger management classes, because I don't believe that humans who are in a domestic partnership or love each other should ever be this angry. I always found it to be very strange how people chose to maintain a relationship with me while always being angry at me. And I recognize that I'm an infuriating human being, but there comes a point in everyone's life that they must look into the mirror and say that, hey, I really fucked up in my dynamic with Daniel. And I did that. And once I was able to do that, that's when I was able to really truly be honest with the fact that, look, when I was a child, I recognized that to make a movie, to be an actor, to be in production, no matter what you wanted to do, it's very much achievable when you're born with the amount of talent and you work as hard as I am working, or have always worked my whole life. What I wanted to do was to create the real stories, the stories that are emulated via fake scripts and movies, but in real life. And my cousin David and I will tell you a great story. When we were children, we were overexposed to pornography because our parents are Russian, and they weren't naive towards children not being exposed to pornography at a young age as a thing. They just simply, I don't know if they overlooked. I think that it's better to give them a chance to respond. My father has passed away, but my cousin's parents are alive, and I know my mom's perspective is that she doesn't care. Now, in reality, we wanted to buy pornography, and at the time, you had to go into the city to buy it. So when we were about 13, maybe 14 years old, one of the things that I devised was a plan to go into the city and buy porn with the fake IDs that we made. Now, David and I knew that we weren't able to just pull off being 21 years old when we were like 13 and 14, and I didn't have this perfect beard, and I was fair skinned and very much, I looked almost identical to my son Drake, actually. So please listen up. So I was at the time working at a store called Party City. So David and I, well, look, fuck it. I'm going to tell you right now, this is my plan because I knew that I had a really close friend. His name is Brian. His brother Bobby bought pornography a lot, and I knew that I had a client for it, and it was a way for me to generate the income, tell a great story, and really get into the fact that not only am I not lying, why would a human being who has a story that's this cool, that can be corroborated by people that are not even his friends, ever need to spice it up by inventing parts of the story? So check this shit out. So I'm working at Party City, and I'm able to generate significant revenue if I'm able to buy the pornography. And whatever, it's humans. I was always taught that my body's a positive thing. I'm not interested in body shaming, and I definitely have no interest in the suppression of an amazing story when, in retrospect, I can't even believe my parents were so irresponsible that they allowed all of this, and I would go completely insane if my kids ever did anything like this. But, like I said, it's the 90s, it was a different time. So I'm at Party City, and I recognize that there's like mustache kits. And so I get a few of these mustache kits and some crazy glue and throw it in my backpack. And we have our fake IDs that are made by Abdul. He is a local fake ID guy. Right around the corner from the place where you buy the pornography, so that worked out pretty well. And and I'll tell you an amazing story also about the fake ID thing in a second. And so we end up getting these things, and I'm like, look, I'm gonna put this mustache on, to really sell the fact that it's a 13 or 14, probably 13-year-old using an ID that shows them about, because you don't want to be 21, it's got to be like 23. And it was a state ID, in case anyone's wondering. I don't even know what that is. So I go into, I'm about to go into the store, and my cousin David's like dying laughing, and I'm like, what are you doing? Gotta put the mustaches on. He's like, I can't do it. I can't do the mustache. And he's just dying laughing, and I'm like, you know what, fuck it. And I put the crazy glue right on, and I put the mustache right on, and I walk right into the actual place. Now, please remember, I have crazy glue underneath my nose, so I start getting a little woozy, and I might have picked up a few titles that maybe it was the crazy glue talking. But the reality is that not only did we buy it successfully, we brought back a great score, made like $150, and bought McDonald's, and we did it independently. We did it in a normal fashion. We didn't hurt anyone. And it is one of the most epic stories of all time that can not only be corroborated, it's 100% true. It's 100% true. It's 100% true, and I think that as a father of two children, I'd be absolutely mortified if my children ever engaged in anything like this. But in order to understand it, you have to first either live it or experience it through my narration, which is why it's so important for us as parents to really recognize, hey, the actions that we as adults are taking in front of our children will forever be ingrained in the memories that they're experiencing. So no matter what you want to say or not say, last time I checked, I've been a really amazing father to my kids since the child was even conceived, let alone the decades plus that I was with my partner. So I'm not really interested in disproving utter lies. I have a business or two and a future with my children to really enjoy life. I'm not really interested in the complete and utter insanity that I've truly come home to since my last unlawful incarceration. And I will express to everyone that tonight I'll tell everyone what it's like to go to county jail, what it's like to experience the horrors and pain of being looked at as both a guilty man, a domestic violence predator, as well as a human being who is so fucking dumb that he can't understand what a court order is or the persistence of humans that are trying to have him incarcerated. It's too complicated. And the complexities of my shame, that I had to be shamed by the guards and the other inmates that are judging me, because my story is almost unbelievable. And if I'm able to have a chance to really express myself over the course of a long form narrative, as well as truly explaining that there is absolutely no reason to continuously arrest a human being who is trying to do his best to provide, even to this very moment, the issues at hand need to be resolved universally, because my goal is to provide for my family. And no matter how I feel personally about people that I've chosen to, maybe marry or divorce or whatever it is, I still would like to have a chance to provide for everyone without they themselves getting in the way of my ability to continue to make the money that I have made my entire life. Now, please understand that my life is a vignette of some of the most amazing stories you can possibly imagine. But what I did do and what I did not do is very clearly going to be defined from this day going forward, because I'm not going to miss any parts of the story. The truth is that my cousin David barely even wanted to invite me to his bar mitzvah. That's how much our relationship was strained from the time of the story till then. And now the reason why I say this is because I believe I might have even been 12. And I would revert back to the reality of having a little chance to review it and maybe even one day talk to David. But the sad matter of fact is that my aunt really truly was affected by the wealth that she made, and my father was truly affected by her being affected. And watching all of this truly made me understand that when I saw my two cousins, David and Jessica, on a stage receiving cats, like literally little kittens, as gifts, to really show the magnitude of my aunt's benevolence. And I'm not sure if that was designed to make me feel good or bad, but I had already spent 7 years being really insulted and ridiculed and used as, hey, I'm going to make my son David spoiled and not offer the same services, while sometimes offering and bringing me to certain shows and clubs and dangling certain random gifts, but not being treated as an equal to David truly was one of the most sadistic things that you could have done to me as a human being, because it's not like my aunt had no other kids. She had 5 kids total. So bringing me into a family and showing me love at a time when my mother and father simply didn't have what it took, and my aunt was far more intelligent than to simply just have ignored it. She actually propelled the complete opposite narrative for me and David to not be friends, for me to be subconsciously and socially bullied, and truly be one of the seedlings of discontent that I don't really understand why an adult would opt to exclude a child who is yearning for nothing more than love, attention, and companionship. But look, humans need to do what they need to do in order to fill a void that is a little too complex for me to really understand at this juncture. Right now I have to focus on real estate and recognizing that my litigation is not something that defines me. In the upcoming videos, I'll explain that over the last 3 years has been the final chapter in the learning curve that was required for my business models. Because my goal is truly to launch business concepts that are endless, such as the Whalen-Yutani Corporation, aka Danco, aka Microbank, aka a slew of other concepts that really spiral into a beautiful web of truth, not lies. And when you want to get more and not less, you truly need to understand at what trajectory and what sacrifices and resources are you willing to give for your end result. Now for me, I thought that what I was doing was truly being a good father, staying around locally and working my ass off on projects so that I don't have to travel, I don't have to launch my businesses prematurely, so I could be in my children's lives. Over the last 8 months, I've realized that no matter how much work and effort and money I've put forth in the past, people's visceral hate of me as a human being, so like my aunt and my, I guess, ex-wife at this point, overshadows their love of themselves, and they lose sight of humanity. It is, I guess, what can I say? I have a way. Look, Please remember, ladies and gentlemen, that not only am I a human being, but what you have just experienced is a complete and utter stream of consciousness that is done directly from the subconscious. Everything I've said, including Alzheimer's, federal agent, and a slew of other things that you choose not to believe in, are not only 100% true. At this time, I hope that the human beings who I've mentioned are able to fill in the gaps of the parts of the story that I chose not to say, in order to corroborate the fact that I am respecting both David, Mark, and Galina, as well as my ex-wife, and everyone else that you can possibly imagine, because my goal is to never speak to them directly, but to speak to the camera and really express to everyone that if you are offended by my content or my words, there is no one that is forcing you to watch this. Furthermore, rather than compiling some sort of loose narrative where certain sentences that I say are taken out of context and then this channel is weaponized against me, let's take a step back and recognize one, thank you, Judge Raven, one of the smartest, most intelligent human beings in law, and a human being that showed me that the project that I engaged in was worth it is the Raven himself. And, you know, his first name is really going to be kept secret because it's one of those things that's a little too good to be true, because one of the things that he was able to show me, and that's not to take anything away from Bill Kelly or John Hagman or the entire office of the Public Defender's Office that I'm very proud to work with, because I find myself at a true advantage because I really am at rock bottom in all aspects of my life other than my health and my knowledge and my self-control and my net worth of real estate and my actual adjudicated claims. Those things, I'm at the best parts of my life. But everything else, you know, relationship-wise and things like that, I'm at rock bottom, you know. And when you're at a point in life like this, you can either choose to opt to be this monster that has nothing to do with who you truly are, or you can show the world the better parts of who you are because you no longer are under the stresses that lead you to smoking. So at this time, I would like to announce that I'm about 24 hours without a single cigarette. I feel great, and I went from smoking about a pack and a half a day to smoking 0 cigarettes, and this is day 2, but if I'm able to do 2 days, I probably will do 3, and taking it one day at a time. You must understand that the only reason why I was able to do this is because I recognize that in order for me to work independently, I won't be able to take any tobacco breaks, nor is this something that I can have in my life as a single father, because it will interfere in what I'm trying to accomplish with my children, which is being absolutely transparent. So unless I want to hang a cigarette out of my mouth while I'm trying to teach my kid a life lesson, and the mathematical probability of me suffering some sort of a debilitating disease or even deterioration of my mouth, gums, and general smell for people who don't like it are completely ignored, I can't really do my job as a father. So, on that note, I hope everyone understands that the ability to orate myself in a public space, whereas my adversaries, nor most of the people that are watching this, can even spend 2 minutes see, I had to do a little there. Speaking honestly and truthfully in front of a camera and an audience of unknown. You can have 50 people that watch this. You could have 50 million people that watch this. The numbers are not an accurate reflection of the exact number of audience members. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who was able to have gotten me to this point. Please recognize that this entire process has been one single take without any rehearsal, practice, or anything thereof. Therefore, what you will see tonight is going to be one of the most original concepts to have ever launched. And I am proud that I've spent the last 35 years planning and perfecting this entire process. Because if it wasn't for my children, my love of them, and truly my love of my ex-wife who gave birth to these boys, and my inability to find any anger within myself, this is why I'm able to channel the love that I have in my heart to truly show how ridiculous and wrong the people who have chosen to go against me for no other reason than the fact that they just can't say, hey Daniel, I love you and I was wrong.